We're live. Round two.
Round two.
Let's try not to delete this one. Here we go, guys.
Better the second time.
Yeah. Welcome back, everybody, to the Audiation Station podcast. I'm your host, Parker John. And today we're joined again by Diabass, incredibly talented artist in the drum and bass house, how do you describe it? Future rave. And yeah, let's just start with how did you know you want to take music to the next level, more than a hobby, start producing, DJing, etc. Let's start from there.
So I've always been a fan of EDM in general. Always been going to raves for a long time and just been a fan of the music. And I was living in California after I graduated from UBC, just doing a day job. And I was kind of just coming home after work and not doing much, maybe go to the gym, watch Netflix and stuff. So I was like, I need to do something more productive with my life. And I thought, I'm already such a big fan of EDM in general. Why don't I try making it, basically? So I downloaded the free trial FL Studio, started messing around, and pretty much instantly knew, I found that thing that makes me click. I was like, oh, this is me. I get it. It wasn't immediate that I wanted to, do this for a living or take it to the next level, but I knew I found that thing that kind of made me tick. So I started just making music in my free time, and fast forward 3-4 years later, then that's kind of when I realized, gradually, this is kind of what I want to do with my life, and I don't want to be doing my engineering day job. Eventually, this is what I want to do for every day. So yeah, that's kind of how it worked.
You're an engineer. Is that what kind of engineer are you?
Geotechnical engineer.
Geotechnical engineer.
Dirt and rocks.
Dirt and rocks. Is that how you got Diabass, or what's the story behind the Diabass name?
Yeah, kind of. It's kind of a funny story. I was trying to come up with a DJ name for a long time when I was first starting to produce in my bedroom back in California in the States when I was working my engineering job. Still the same job now, actually, but I was living in the States. But I was using name generators and just trying to come up with stuff on my own. Nothing was really sticking. And I was like, fuck, I need to come up with a DJ name eventually, call myself something. So I had the idea of looking at different rock and mineral names because I knew some of them had cool names. And then I came across Diabass, which is the name of a rock, but it's spelled Diabasse. And then I was like, oh, that's that could be one. And I sat on it for a while, and I obviously changed it to Diabass, bass music. And then a couple months went by, and I was like, I kind of really like this. So it's kind of a future callback to my past engineering career. Yeah. It'll be nice to relate back to what I used to do, and hopefully I'm doing music full time. But yeah, long story short, it's the name of a rock.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of pays homage to I don't want to say humble beginnings, but pays homage to a kind of a past life kind of chapter sort of thing, and which I think also plays an integral role in how you became producer DJ, because did it push you being an engineer, did it push you to leave the corporate life at all, or does it, I guess you're still doing it, but does it push you to be no, I know, it gives you reassurance that I know that music is what I want to do full time versus just a hobby project, right?
Yeah, 100%. I'm still doing the same engineering job that I was doing in the States at the time, just remotely now, obviously. But yeah, it's made me realize even more that that's not what I want to do my whole life. It's good for a day job. I make good money, but I'm not super passionate about geotechnical engineering. Hopefully, I don't know, no one from my company listens to this. Yeah. I like it. It's a great company. It's a great job, but music is my real passion. That's really what I want to do, every day of my life. So having a day job almost, drives you and motivates you more to get out of it and make your time outside of that more productive.
From your personal experience or personal raving or going to clubs and stuff, getting that style down, how did you land on the style or the genre that you wanted with?
Yeah, so I wasn't that musical growing up. I did cello for a couple of years in elementary school.
I shouldn't laugh.
You can laugh. It's fine. There's a tiny kid carrying a gigantic cello.
Yeah.
So I used to be able to read music. I can't anymore. But yeah, I was never super musical. I had good rhythm always. I could play expert on Rock Band drums on any song.
That's huge. That's huge.
But I think the producing stuff obviously came very late. I don't think I started producing until I was 24. I'm 30 now. And then even the EDM fandom came later. I was just listening to rock and top 40. But I'd say to answer your question, the switch flick aha moment in terms of at least EDM and getting into that realm and having that kind of musicality was my friend in must have been grade 7 or 8. showed me the UKF tutorial on dubstep. I don't know if you know that.
I know
It's
UKF.
Like, yeah, old school UKF. They're still around, but there's a song. It's on YouTube still. It's called the UKF tutorial on dubstep production. It's basically like a walkthrough of how to make a dubstep song. And the first time I heard it, I had like shitty computer headphones on. I was like, this sounds like robots like screaming. This is garbage, like the classic grandma reaction. And then he's like, no, bro, trust me. And he brought me to his like home theater sound system with a subwoofer. And then the first like synth that hits, and I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I was like, holy shit, like I get it.
Yeah.
And literally from then on, I was like, okay, like fuck rock and rap. Like I want to listen to EDM. And that's what got me into it. And then in terms of musicality, I don't know. I guess I'm just like a freaking natural.
Yeah, just a chill guy.
I have good rhythm.
Just
I
a chill
good
guy.
musicality. I think music production using software, because I don't play any instruments. I think using software is like, it's a good fit for me in terms of my brain, because as an engineer, I'm very, logic forward, and it's almost like computer programming. You're manipulating software, which I do every day in my engineering job, like running analyses and using these EQ curves and music productions, like very technical, using compressors. And then it combines that with a creative element, which I always have kind of been naturally creative. But it's a good kind of combination of the two. And it's a different kind of musicality outside of, reading music or playing an instrument. And I think, using a computer as an instrument is still being musical. And apparently, I'm okay with that. So I'd say taking this seriously for about a year now. I think I launched my socials and my first track in October 2023. So it's been like a year and 3 months. I started out thinking I wanted to be a dubstep artist, and my first few tracks were like mid-tempo-y, pretty heavy dubstep. And now I'm experimenting with drum and bass and future rave. So I'm still trying to figure out my signature sound, but originally my dubstep heavy bass vibe definitely came from like all the way back from the first show I ever went to, which is Bass Nectar. Pretty wild first show to go to, but it was my first year at UBC. We're in Res, and one of my roommates was like, you guys want to go to a rave? It's at the Thunderbird Arena, which is like a couple blocks from where we lived. He's like, the guy's called Bass Nectar. I was like, that sounds scary. Like, I don't know what that is. But I went there, and if like, for those of you that don't know, Bass Nectar is notorious for having like the loudest bass like on planet Earth at his shows. And I went, and I was like, I didn't even like that kind of music at the time, but I showed up and I was like, okay, I get it. Like, this is sick. And I was listening to the golden age, like electro house, like Clarity and Zed, and that's nice. But then I was like, oh, this is this is the next level. And I remember he ended his set with his remix of Lights by Ellie Goulding, and the confetti was coming down. And I was dead sober, but I was like, I feel like the euphoria, and that kind of got me hooked on the heavy bass scene, and carried all the way till now. So I'm not gonna put it away yet, but so far I'm more leaning towards the drum and bass kind of future rave route right now.
Yeah.
Working on those two genres, and the switch flip from dubstep to those two genres at Tomorrowland. I would say I was there this past summer, and I saw how the Europeans rave, and it's a lot different than how the North Americans rave.
Yeah,
and arguably better. That's kind of like Amsterdam and the Netherlands in general is kind of the birthplace of like techno and the whole rave scene, and to see how people react to that there and the different genres, being at the main stage, seeing like Dimitri Vegas, like Mike, like Steve Aoki, all those like big room guys, it kind of made me shift my mentality a bit to the more main stage music. That's why I came up with my future rave song and drum and bass too, because dubstep's not even that big over there.
Yeah.
So ever since then, I've kind of been trying a new avenue, and we'll see how that goes.
That future rave song you're talking about, Just Keep Breathing, just surpassed 12K streams.
Hell yeah, baby.
Hell yeah, man.
Congrats. I think it's at 13K as of
13K
right now.
Hell yeah. Sick.
So yeah, that was I did one drum and bass song before that, and that's my latest release. It's my foray into the more main stage ravey scene. It's a collab with a local singer. Her name's Lindsay Highgate. She's one of my friends too. And yeah, that's doing really well. I think I'm getting like 600 streams a day. So
that's unreal.
It's getting up there.
I'm one of them. I like that song. I like to work out to it. It's a good, good pulse. You have a nice way of blending fast, or even in your live sets. So I've seen your sets, and you have a very nice way of like sometimes like blending very fast 175 BPM drum and bass, and then bringing it down to like, what's future rave at 130, 135 or
so yeah, like 140.
140.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like, it seems like you keep it at the same tempo, even though they're completely different. Would you ever blend the two producing? Are you like, would you ever try and do a drum and bass / future rave track?
Yeah, it's funny you ask because that's what I'm planning on doing. As you said, I like blending different genres, and especially when I'm playing live, I like playing different kinds of music. Because I find if you play one genre, this is just my personal taste, it kind of gets a little bland, and I like artists, like Jaws or Seven Lions, who kind of plays a bit of everything. So this track I just mentioned, Just Keep Breathing, is kind of strictly future rave. And then I got another track coming out, hopefully in the next few months, that's more of a traditional, just strictly drum and bass track, similar to Sub Focus's style. I'm collabing with another different Vancouver singer this time. And then I'm working on my next track after that, which is going to be a blend of the two. So I'm going to try and combine, I haven't really made it yet, so we'll see how it goes. But I'm going to try to combine future rave and drum and bass and kind of come up with a new genre and maybe, hopefully, my signature sound. Because I find drum and bass is like very deep and heavy and like grimy. And I want to kind of try to bring a rave element to it and make it a little more kind of underground nightclub vibes.
Yeah. What do you mean by like that? Like, that Millennium sound where it's like that kind of like euphoric, like lots of airy synths and stuff. Is that kind of what you mean when you're trying to blend that into drum and bass, or what's the?
Yeah, or more of like a future rave lead,
or future
like a
rave,
big like a main stage future rave synth on top of drum and bass, drums and bass line. Similar vibe, but just a little more ravey.
So like if Morton and Dimension had a baby, then
Exactly. Yeah. I'm gonna make their child.
Yeah. I love that. It's always as you're producing that, you don't have someone to follow suit in necessarily. No one really comes to mind that is doing that. Yeah. And so it's, how do you navigate, or how do you do that and kind of pioneer that new genre or that new style? Like, have you hit roadblocks, and then can you explain those to us?
I haven't figured out yet, but I'll let you know. But as an artist, I think that's what you want to do, because in the past with other tracks, and even this last future rave track I dropped, I'm heavily inspired by other artists, and I'm referencing specific songs like in particular, and I wouldn't say copying, but it's heavily inspired by them, and I'm kind of recreating what has already been done. And that definitely has creative limitations, whereas with this one, there is, like you said, nothing to look at and be like, oh, how did they make this sound, or what instruments do they use? So it forces you to just figure it out on your own and be creative. And I think that's when it leads to hopefully good results after maybe some trial and error. Because I don't want to be the guy that sounds like this person, that person's already doing it. I want to sound like myself, and then hopefully some people will be comparing themselves to me one day.
Yeah, hell yeah. But you're also no amateur to starting things, or what's the word? Amateur to, like, you began producing before DJing, right? And you kind of had to, you threw yourself into it and like kind of try to navigate the world of electronic music, where usually from my experience, I know people DJ first, kind of get their grounds, kind of get situated in the scene, and then start producing. So do you think, how long were you producing before you started DJing?
Yeah, so I've been producing now for just over 5 years. I started like late 2019, so just over 5 years, and DJing has been in the last 6 months that I've taken that up. I played my first show on my 30th birthday. You were there.
Yeah, it was a good show.
And then, basically I started practicing for that. I bought like a Pioneer XDJ, like almost a club setup. So that's definitely new for me, but I did that intentionally because, like you said, most people start DJing and then they want to play their own music. But I think, not that there's a problem with it, but the kind of time frame to get good at DJing is a lot shorter than the time frame to get good at producing. So if you're DJing regularly, then you want to start playing your own tracks. If you're starting from square one, it's going to take multiple years, I would say, before you can play something that's like, club level, that's good enough.
Yeah.
Whereas I intentionally did it the other way around. I kind of thought about this going into it, where I take 3, 4, 5+ years and learn how to produce. And then once I start DJing, you can practice for a couple of weeks, couple of months, get passably good at it. And then I can play all my own tracks I've already been making for the last however many years, which I think is a good way to go about it, but teach their own.
You have your own portfolio at that point. When you're on stage, you kind of have your own catalog of stuff that you can present to everybody. And I think maybe the word you're looking for is like the learning curve to producing is a little bit longer. Definitely. It's a harder learning curve than DJing. And that's phenomenal because it takes patience, and that's
Yeah, I think like every frat boy wants to be a DJ, but there's a lot less people that want to be a music producer because it does take a lot longer.
Can you walk us through a particular moment of like real hardship?
Honestly, like every track I make is freaking hard. A lot of people don't realize that like making music in terms of being in the studio is a very arduous and long process. There's a lot of memes out there that's like what people think making music is like versus what it's actually like. And, you know, people think you're just like DJing in your bedroom and, you know, all these beats are playing, but you're just like picking through your snare folder, listening to like 1,000 different snare samples and listening to one part of the track like literally thousands of times. And
it's like you think he's out cheating, but it's
yeah,
it's like all the different it's all the different kicks and snares. But yeah,
Porter Robinson has a really funny clip. You should look it up of him like making all the snare sounds with his mouth. He can do it better than I can.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I would say most tracks are like, for me at least personally, more like grinding it into place. I might have some inspiration or some creative moment where I just like come up with a melody and lay it down right away, or you know, something clicks. But a lot of the time it's just slowly chipping away at the stone until you like reveal the statue, the song inside, and slowly mixing all the sounds and blending them together and adding layers and removing stuff, adding stuff. And I feel like every song I make is almost a hardship because I can hear it in my head. I know what I want it to sound like. And you're just like eventually slowly chipping away until you are happy enough. It's never gonna be perfect, but until you get to that point where like I should probably release it. It's been months.
Yeah. Can we talk about your Rumble experience and how that has that experience helped you or has propelled your stage presence or anything like that?
Yeah. So I work at Rumble Boxing. It's a fitness studio. It's kind of like a spin class, except you're not riding a bike, you're punching a heavy bag, but similar vibes. So it's a group fitness class. There's usually 30 to 40 people each class. And I lead people through, you know, different boxing combos, and they're punching a heavy bag the whole time. And obviously, since it's me, I only play EDM and rave music. But aside from helping me get fit and being a good community outlet, it's seriously helped me with my music career, especially live performances. You can probably vouch for this, but a lot of people, not to pump my own tires, but a lot of people were saying like my first set on my birthday, they didn't think that was my first set.
No, I did not.
Mostly of the stage presence, but yeah, Rumble, I'm basically throwing a rave every single week, multiple times a week. I'm learning how to structure a playlist, you know, create those moments, figuring out what tracks work, what tracks don't, learning how to read a crowd. And obviously, like, I'm a professional hype man at Rumble, so learning how to talk on the mic and hype people up. Also like making mashups and make a lot of remixes and mashups for class so I can play those in my live sets. And that has helped me so much for performing live now. And I think that is what's going to set me apart from a lot of other producers and DJs that are at my level. I've only played a few shows publicly to date, but I feel like a lot of people won't have that stage presence that I have because of Rumble. So I'm super grateful for it. And yeah, I'm going to continue doing both. Couldn't care less if I'm in front of like a couple hundred people on stage now.
Really? That's so good.
My Rumble, we all have like monikers or nicknames that we go by, and long story short, but mine is Daddy Dunn, like my last name. It came from university. I'll save you the story, but before each class, I go outside and start my intro song, and I scream, I say, "Rumble, who's your daddy?" And walk in. So if you say that 3 times a week for 3 years, you'll kind of stop caring what people think. And I've slowly learned to come out of my shell and just go have fun and do my own thing at Rumble, and that definitely translates to performing live on stage. So I feel like I have the opposite problem of most people, where I don't worry about what I need to say in the mic, or I don't care about being in front of people. I got a good stage presence. I'm more worried about like the technicals of like, can I mix these 2 songs properly? Yeah. Which is like, I think a good problem to have, because that you can work on and get better. Whereas just having that kind of rock star persona on stage, or having that energy is a little bit harder to learn to put your finger on. Yeah.
Social anxiety hates to see you come in. Just like, you rock that mic. I love it, but it keeps you engaged in your sets as well, which is phenomenal. It
makes a huge difference. Yeah. Like if you watch like a DJ on stage, it depends on the genre, and they're kind of just sitting there and like not moving. It could be the exact same set, everything, the same production, but if they're like going ham and dancing and hyping up the crowd, you get more hyped up, and you know, you end up enjoying the set more because that energy is infectious. So I think it's super important, especially for smaller venues where you can, you know, get up close to the DJ. Bigger festivals, it doesn't matter as much, but I think it's often underlooked. And what I've realized with DJing, not that I'm super experienced, but I think a lot of people will agree, is that no one cares about your transitions except for other DJs. So as long as you basically don't stop the music, what really matters is song selection and your energy, like just playing bangers. And
I'm going to expose you a little bit here because it kind of piggybacks off that. But in your set, the 30th birthday set, if another DJ with zero stage presence played 4 John Summit songs.
I played more than that. I played like 6.
No, but it like back to back to back. When you did Shiver 3 times, you're like he jumps on the mic and he's like, I don't give a fuck. I just played Shiver 3 times. We're going to run it back. But like, if nobody says that, I would be like in the crowd being like, wait, I've heard this song 3 times, but consecutively. Like, but I loved it because you brought it and you owned it. And it just, you're like, yeah, you're right. Who cares? You just go with it.
Yeah, and I ended up being everyone's favorite part.
Yeah.
I loved when you played 3 different remixes back to back. Because I have a mashup that I play at Rumble. That's where it's from, where I play like the original drop and then I transition to a different remix and a third remix, and that kind of all build on intensity. So the last one, I think I was like, I'm playing another remix. Third one, I don't give a fuck. Let's go.
Going back to producing a little bit. How do you stay inspired in like creative stuff in a creative space? How do you stay kind of locked in on bringing fresh sounds?
I think the most important thing is to make music that you like. And I also learned this from Rumble. I don't play music in class unless I like it. I think that translates to people taking the class, and similarly, it will translate to your listeners on Spotify or wherever. But if you're trying to follow a trend, or make songs that are popular on TikTok, or follow what John Summit or someone else is doing because they're popular, I don't know if that's the best thing, and it might not necessarily be what you like. So the way I stay inspired and creative is just, making what actually comes out of me, even though it might not sound like everyone else. As we talked about before, I'm trying to like think of a new genre and make something up, and maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but that's what gets me going. And I think if you follow that creative inspiration, that's, what keeps you true and pure to yourself. And also a lot of the times I'll go in with an idea to one project, like, oh, I want it to sound like this, and something will happen. It'll take a right turn. I think it's important to follow those kind of creative distractions or creative avenues and see what you come up with.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for someone that is just getting into producing? Because I have all these ideas or sounds, or I know what I would produce. Like you say, you'd be true to yourself. I know what I would make, but I don't know how to get going. Like, do you have anything for anyone who's just getting started or doesn't know where to start? Like, how does one get their foot in the door, or even the right foot in the right direction? Do you have anything for that?
It just takes practice. I think you just got to learn by doing. That's the biggest thing. I feel like a lot of people, since it's on your computer, they think there's some shortcut or some hack, but it's just like anything else. Learning a language or playing a sport, it takes years and years of just practicing, doing it over and over and over again. So you can find some good resources online, some blogs or YouTube videos. That's kind of how I learned, walking through the software. If you have specific questions or techniques you want to look up, there's a lot of bad videos, but there's a lot of good videos too. But honestly, just learn by doing. And something I wish I did differently looking back is, obviously you're not going to be very good at the beginning. And I spent like so much time on each project, each beat, each song I was making, trying to perfect it. But like, obviously no matter how much time you spend, it's going to be ass compared to like what you make 2 years down the road. So I would say just, get an idea, kind of finish it when it's good enough, and then just keep making songs a little bit every day. Goes a long way. And there's not really any secrets or any cheat codes besides just doing it. Maybe find a friend that knows what they're doing. It can help you learn, good teacher, good mentor, but yeah, just got to do it.
Do you ever circle back to old projects being like, oh, like I never actually released this. I was on the right track, but it was 2 years ago and my producing skills were nowhere near what they are now. Like, do you ever kind of like want to go open the drawer and be like, oh, this was finished, but actually this could be better if I do this?
I've done that actually quite a bit in the past, where like this last Future Rave track, Just Keep Breathing, I made it like 3+ years ago, and I liked the idea. Like, I think the melody and the production was, a solid foundation, and then I kind of updated it to my current production thresholds, and I changed a bit and kind of brought it into 2024, which is when it was released. But then you'll look back at other tracks and be like, there's no hope. Like,
insalvageable.
It's a lost cause. There's one song
lost cause
that I made that will never ever see the light of day. But at the time I thought I could sing, and I could not.
I will pay to hear this.
No one
Can
will
you
ever
show
hear
me
it. maybe off the record.
Yeah,
but
off the
I
record.
remember it was when I was living in the States. I drove to like these train tracks in the middle of like the forests, like so no one would hear me. And like I don't know why I just didn't record it in my bedroom because I had roommates, but I recorded it on my phone in voice memos, like in my car, which obviously isn't gonna sound good in the first place. And like with all the glass and the reverb, it was so bad. And then I made a like an Millennium style song with my own voice. It was horrible, but other songs, I'm like, okay, there's something here. Let me, go update it and bring it up to standard. I'm trying not to do that now because I did that with the first couple of songs I released, and it was the first few songs, so they're not going to be amazing anyways. But now I think there's a certain limitation to doing that because either the core structure, the melody, or you're kind of like limited to what you were doing back then versus now. If you just make a song from scratch, everything's up to date and you're like using your full potential. So I'm trying to just make stuff from scratch now versus old projects.
Right. It's almost easier just starting off with a blank canvas versus like trying to fix stuff that's already kind of like thrown together. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, it's just like so challenging, and people like give up so quick. But like you said earlier, you've been doing this for 6 years. Like how long ago was that?
Like 5 and a bit. Yeah, I started in 2019. I think October, November 2019 was. I checked my emails a while ago. It was when I first downloaded FL Studio, and I think, like you said, you just kind of have to realize that you're not going to be good at first, and if you're really serious about it, you have to, flash forward 2 or 3 years down the road, and then realize that's when you're going to make stuff that is potentially releasable. So as long as you realize you're not going to be good at first and just do it for fun at the beginning, I think that's the right mentality to have. Same as doing a sport, if you all of a sudden take up basketball, you're not going to be very good at the beginning, but if you just dedicate yourself and practice, then eventually, maybe a few years down the road, you can start playing some competitive pickup, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's just realizing that. But a lot of producers, myself included, are very delusional. Like even the first track I released, I was like, oh, this is like gonna go viral. Like it's like it's gonna be a banger. Yeah. And then obviously looking back, I'm like, it was good for a first track, but it's not that great.
And on the word viral, you have a pretty strong social media presence.
And I don't think anyone really has it figured out. But yeah, like you said, my Diabass music account surpassed my personal account earlier in 2024, which is a good milestone. Now it's considerably more in terms of followers on Instagram. I think like starting with a good fan base from Rumble helped because those people were listening to my music that I made myself in class a lot. So that was a good Kickstarter, but that's not the bulk of it. I think just making content and releasing it consistently is what helps. You'll get a few followers here, a few followers there. But if you make, I still am trying to post one video a week. Nothing has popped off, a ton besides a few exceptions here and there, which I'll talk about after. But I think the biggest thing is just posting however much you can, once a week, once a month, twice a week, whatever it is. And then that not only will help you in terms of the algorithm and followers, but it'll help you get better at making content if you do it that much. And then, better videos will lead to better results. I had a few videos go semi-viral on TikTok, like they're at like 15K and like 20 something K. But on Instagram, I got 1,000 followers and like 500,000 views from one video. There was nothing to do with my music, obviously. It was some stupid trend that I was seeing. I was like, well, let me see if this works. And turns out it did. It was, you put like a 2-second loop, so you increase the watch time, and the text is something like, if you have less than 5K followers, comment and like see how many followers you can get or something stupid
little
like that.
Channels help little channels and everybody. Yeah.
It was like a support each other thing. And turns out a lot of people want followers. So I had like 6,000 comments and like a shit ton of likes. And I got 1,000 followers from that. But it ended up being good because they're all in the music industry because it was a targeted post for music. So
nice.
That actually led me to like connect and collab with a few people. And another tip I would say is just reach out to people that are in similar levels to you, like experience wise and success wise. Also like local people. I've connected and followed with a bunch of people from Vancouver. The next person I'm going to collab with is a singer from Vancouver for a drum and bass track I'm working on. And I got added to this like artist support group because I was just reaching out to people. And now there's like 50 people in there that'll like support each other and follow your tracks and stuff like that. But it's just little things that add up, honestly.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. What's the I don't want to call it the ratio, but what's the turnover when you have say something on social media go off, let's say that video got 500K views, does that translate to streams? Like, what's the relationship between a strong social media presence and streams?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that one out too.
But is there turnover? Is there carryover?
Not for me right now. That's the problem. That video that got 500,000 views and that I got 1,000 followers from didn't result in any measurable increase in my Spotify streams, because I feel like it's hard to get people off the app and to click a link and go to like Spotify, let's say.
Right.
Talking to a lot of other artists, I feel like that's also a similar problem they have. One idea that has kind of been working is posting remixes of popular songs, kind of trending songs. Like I did a bootleg for APT, that song by Rose and Bruno Mars.
Oh, yeah. Did you throw that one's on YouTube, right?
It's on YouTube.
Yeah, sick.
I got a bunch of like bootleg remixes on SoundCloud, YouTube, if you want to check them out.
Yeah, I'll link them in the description. You got it.
Yeah. So that was one thing that did work for getting people onto Spotify, and for, you know, converting Instagram or TikTok followers to Spotify followers, is posting a popular remix and then dropping a SoundCloud link and doing a download gate, because people want to either stream it and or download it on SoundCloud, and then you can make a download gate to make them follow you on Spotify or follow you on SoundCloud, repost the track, whatever you want. And that has helped a bit, but that's definitely still something I'm working on. And challenge is, like you said, I have a good following on social media, I have a good presence, but how do you convert that into Spotify listeners, and how do you convert that to streams in your song? I started running meta ads for my newest track, which has helped. It's not a ton in terms of numbers, but it's more quality over quantity. I posted like some artwork, my Spotify canvas, that like weird futuristic girl breathing. I just posted that with the audio over it, obviously, and that's gotten like, I don't know, a couple thousand new streams and followers on Spotify, which isn't a ton in the grand scheme of things, but they're quality listeners. So they're seeing the video and they're exiting the app and going to Spotify to listen to it, clicking the hyperlink, because they like what they hear. And instead of, you know, getting added onto a playlist with a bunch of listeners and people are listening to your song passing by, that also helps. But these are people that, you know, chose to follow you and will be more recurring listeners and turn into followers, hopefully. That's what I'm trying to focus on right now too, is more behind the scenes music, or just posting the actual song itself. It'll reach hopefully a better audience.
You incorporate a lot of female vocals into your tracks, and how do you source like solid quality vocals? Is that through locally here in Vancouver, or is that like kind of sampling off Splice or that sort of thing? So
I started just using samples off Splice, or just vocal sample packs that were released, and you can do that at the beginning, but I find working with vocalists, you can really tailor the vocals to the song instead of the other way around, and I think it ends up with a better result. So Lindsay, who sang on Just Keep Breathing, I knew through Rumble, and we were always kind of talking about doing something together, and we obviously ended up actually doing something. And then it's a funny story, but the vocalist that I'm planning on working with, we got a recording session in a couple of weeks actually for the new drum and bass track I'm working on. She just randomly slid into my DMs one day after I had gotten rejected from another vocalist label. I had known her in my personal life, and we always talked about doing a track together. She has a decent presence on Spotify. I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want to throw them under the bus. But she wanted to do it, but her label or her A&R person, you know, said it wasn't a good fit, which you hear all the time. It's part of being a newer artist. You know, rejection's part of it. But I was feeling a little bit down. I was like, damn, like I thought it was going to work out. You know, use her platform as a leverage and do something cool with a friend. And then I was gonna just put out a PSA on my my music account, like just looking for a vocalist for a drum and bass track, like, and just vet through people. And from some sign from the universe, this girl slid into my DMs the same day. I was like, hey, like by chance, are you looking for a vocalist for a drum and bass track or a house track? Like, I'm down to collab. I was like, well, like, how did she find me? What are you talking about? And I'm taking it as a sign. I checked out her page. She has a great voice. She's from Vancouver. And we've been DMing back and forth and exchanging ideas, and it seems like it's going to work out great.
Dude, you can't make that up.
No, it's definitely a sign. But I think collaborating is really important, not only for your reach and growing, but also just learning from each other, and just like growing your community and your resources.
Yeah. As a producer, DJ just starting out, yeah, how have you navigated those kind of waters and getting getting those yeses? How do you get those yeses? How do you get the foot in the door, or at least a studio session?
Yeah, it's tough. I think like ultimately you just want to get your music in front of as many people as possible. The two collaborations that I've done so far with vocalists, I've been lucky, one I already knew, and the other one reached out to me. But I've gotten rejected a lot in terms of other avenues like labels. Everything I've released so far has been self-released, and I've been sending those songs to labels. But it's tough for newer artists. You know, labels these days are looking at other factors that are just not just your music. You know, your Spotify numbers, your social media presence. A lot of record labels won't sign you unless you're already freaking viral on TikTok. So I've gotten rejected by those people a lot. And something that has worked for me just to get my music in front of people is running ads, like I mentioned before, in Meta, because that definitely you can target. It's really complicated to set up. There's a lot of videos you have to watch, but if you set it up the right way, it'll target it so it puts your music in front of people that actually want to hear it. That's a good way to get your music out there, and just using some promotional services, like to get on playlists and things like that. I was against it at the beginning, marketing and advertising, but something shifted and made me realize like myself is the business and my song is the product. And if I was making anything else, like say a phone case or like,
yeah, if you're doing skincare or
skincare.
or like whatever, you would be marketing
exactly,
that, right?
you'd be, advertising your product and getting in front of people. How else are people supposed to find it? And especially at the beginning, someone in my position that hasn't been doing it, publicly very long. I'm trying to get my song in front of people, and pay for that, and it works, right? So I think that's something that's helped me the most so far.
Does the ads, like, are they handpicked to people? Like, does the algorithm just know, like, okay, this is Jimmy who likes bass house, or this is like Parker that likes drum and bass? How does that work with your advertising to get the music in front of the right people? How do you do that?
I mean, your phone listens to everything you do. You already know. So, it could, like, my Instagram feeds on both my accounts are only rave videos. So obviously it knows I like raving. I don't know how, but just like your search history, I don't know what analytics they use, but your phone knows what you like, and you can set your ad to target whatever countries you want. And I set it. There's like a setting in the Google ads or Meta ads. I'll save the details, but you can basically set it for like Spotify as an interest, and then you add different factors like Spotify and then similar artists to the song you released, or like different music festivals, and then it'll target specific people, not just your random mom or grandma that will never listen to your track. And so far, based on my analytics and results, it's like doing pretty well.
Hell yeah, that's sweet. Do you have a particular track, regardless of the numbers? Because I know Just Keep Breathing's doing pretty well. Like, do you have one track that you're just particularly proud of? Whether that was just like you're in such a creative block and you overcame that, or just it was just an effortless production, and then you're just proud that it happened in a night or in a day. Do you have one in particular that stands out?
I think my tracks that I've impressed myself the most with, or that I'm the most proud of, is not anything that's on Spotify, because I've spent so many hours on that and like perfected it and just forced it into place almost. The stuff that surprised me is videos I made for TikTok and Instagram that or like a mashup or a remix of a popular song or something like that, where I've sat down and done it in an afternoon. And not only is it good for promotion on Spotify or those social media apps or whatever, but it's good to challenge my production skills, because usually I take too long making a song, like months at a time for one track, whereas these songs I'm forcing myself to do it in an afternoon. So it's cool to see what I can make in a couple hours or 1 or 2 sessions. And a lot of the time they end up being like as good or better than the songs I've spent months on Spotify. So like, I don't know, an example of that, I just dropped like a Squid Games remix of that like Pink Soldier song, the one that goes like doo, 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 when they're walking out.
Yeah.
I made a hard techno-y mashup remix of that.
Nice.
And then I remixed Yes Bitch, that song that John Summit plays. It was kind of 6 months ago or 4 months ago, but did a remix for that. Remixed a bunch of other kind of popular songs, and that's been kind of what I'm most proud of, because I'm like, damn, like I did that in an afternoon. Like, like a lot of the older songs, they wasn't as good, and now like making those, I'm like, I'm kind of better than I think if you just force yourself to do it quickly.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, do you get kind of over fixated on when you know you're going to release something on Spotify? Do you over perfect it, or do you over kind of analyze it and then you kind of not end up releasing it? You know what I mean? Versus the TikTok, you're like, hey, like this is I'm just going to put it together. It doesn't have to be anything. Do you kind of have an over, I don't want to call it OCD, but do you have like music OCD?
I have OCD probably. Yeah.
Do you have like music OCD? So when you know this is going to be a Spotify release, that you're like spending way too much time on it, like almost, what's the word? Like
basically everything you just said applies to me. I am definitely a perfectionist, and a lot of people, especially newer producers, have the problem of starting a track and never finishing it, and like you always have 5 tracks going and you're never going to finish the one. Whereas I have the opposite problem. I have one track and I won't do another one until I finish it. And I'm definitely a perfectionist. I have regular OCD and music OCD, whatever other disorders.
Noted. Regular and music OCD. Yeah. I don't know if that's a term, but I'm going to coin it a term.
Well, yeah, we just coined it. But yeah, it's like, that nothing you're doing, no one will ever notice besides you. Like tweaking like the mix on a snare, like 1% this way, 1% that way, like filtering this a tiny bit. And like, yeah, I get way too bogged down in the small details. And that's something that I've realized that I need to change and work on. So with these last few tracks I'm working on, I spent a lot more time on the composition, making the melodies and the arrangement, because that's the part that really matters, that people will notice. And I'm putting more time and effort into that and less into the mixing, which in the past is I've spent like literally weeks and months mixing, and past a certain point, no one's going to care or notice. And it's just useless twisting these knobs for days on end. So I'm trying to stop myself from doing that and, spend time on the important parts and cure my OCDness.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because actually I've done it before where I'm adjusting, like I'm mastering a track or like an audio file or whatever, and I'll like close my eyes and then like bring my mouse down, and then I realize I didn't click on it, and I'm like, yeah, right there. And then it's like it hasn't moved, like it hasn't changed, but you're like, have you had that story where you're like, I didn't even do anything and it sounds different?
Yeah, your brain tricks you. I've talked to other producers and they go through the same thing, where you think you're turning an EQ on and off, but you're like, you missed the on off knob, and you're like, oh yeah, I can hear that. Like, oh, that sounds way better. You're like, shit, like I didn't change anything. Yeah. And you hear it. So yeah, it just goes to show that mixing is important, but like do big picture stuff, like big EQ moves, like big volume changes, and just like try not to tweak stuff. Like the average listener that's not a music producer will never notice. And the things that do matter are the composition, your melodies. Like a good example is like if you listen to all like the golden age classic stuff, like Levels or like Swedish House Mafia stuff, Reload, If I Lose Myself, those songs, if you listen to it like from like with producer ears, like the mix isn't actually that good. Like old Swedish House Mafia stuff, like the mix compared to the stuff that's coming out these days, especially like I don't know, like similar artists, like I don't know, like Max Stein or John Summit, like those mixes are so much better. But like no one cares. It's about how it makes you feel and like the melodies. And I don't think anyone is making those melodies now. And that's the stuff that matters, the actual arrangement and composition of the song, which is kind of had a paradigm shift. I'm like, why am I twisting these fucking knobs? Like, let me just make music and come up with cool transitions or like surprise drops like that people will actually care about. Yeah, I think I had a very memeable musical journey in terms of being a fan of EDM. I started out with, Clarity and all the Zed stuff, like old school Happy Millennium, just the golden age stuff. And then it's like all those memes are like, what are you still listening to? What I do now I just listen to like freaking like hardcore like Berlin underground techno and like just vicious dubstep. But I'm almost going back now because I started out, happy, fun stuff into like some dark dubstep. And now I'm kind of going back to like more main stage music and just like not generic, but more traditional like rave, like top synths and stuff like that. And drum and bass, like it's less dark and scary and more, fun and danceable and more universally liked, I guess.
On a more personal level, what's like one thing that you've like learned about yourself through like your music journey, whether that's producing or DJing? Like what's
probably you think you know everything and you think you're right, but you don't. And if you think you're good, you're not. There's like, I forget what the curve's called. I think you asked me this the first time we recorded the podcast, but I didn't look it up after. But there's some curve that's like, it starts high and then you think you're really good and then it goes all the way down to the bottom and you're like, oh, I think I'm shit. And then you like slowly start going back up. So I feel like I have started at the top and then I hit the bottom. I was like, I am so bad at this. And now I think I'm on the upside and slowly working my way up. But I feel like I've been doing this long enough where I now have a full perspective of like, I've released a few songs. Like I went through the whole beginning phase. I've promoted myself. I'm working on all different aspects of music, not just making it, but performing it live and doing marketing, promotion, like the business end, like networking. So I feel like I can see the whole picture. And when I look back, like even a year ago, I'm like, oh yeah, I thought I was like really good and I thought I knew everything, but I don't. I didn't. Probably still don't, but I'm getting better and feel like I'm getting more mature. So that's what I would say is just like always have an open mind and realize that you're probably going to be in a better place down the road and nothing has to be perfect. Just as long as you keep getting better and don't compare yourself to anyone else, compare yourself to like your past self. I often like will
huge.
Look at my peers on Instagram, like people that I'm friends with that I know, and like they're playing these like sick shows and like they're getting all these numbers. Like, oh fuck, like it's hard not to be jealous and like almost like I'm happy for them. It's like, damn, I want to be them, but yes, you can't do that. You gotta just look back and be like, hey, where was I a year ago? Like, am I farther ahead? Like, yes, like for me personally, a year ago I had like one song out, had like less than 1,000 streams. It wasn't very good. And now, like 1 year later, I have 5 songs out. This last one's like getting 600 plus streams a day. I've played a couple live shows, like doing a podcast. Like
there you go.
Things to look it up. So like clearly I've made some improvements, and that's all that really matters.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now. We need a modern or the most recent. Dude, you're at 5,000 monthly listeners. That's huge.
Oh yeah.
Considering a year ago you had what?
50.
50. There you go.
That's a big increase.
Dude, that's huge. That's like more than if you're in what some bucket list or bingo card items you have on 2025 then for.
Definitely keep playing more live shows. I think I've played like 2 live sets to date. And to be fair, I just started down that avenue from production to DJing like at the end of last year. So keep playing more shows. Get a record signed by label is definitely a big milestone I want to hit, hopefully in 2025. I've been like supporting and talking to like a few smaller labels and seeing what other people are releasing on. And I feel like I'm making similar music, so you never know. And then I actually wrote like a sheet out last year, I think, of like 3 goals. And one of them was play a show, just like period, like a live set. So I did that. And one of them was get a song signed. And the other one was get 100,000 total streams, like across like all songs, all platforms. I think that's just like a pretty sick milestone. So that's what I would say for this year. I want to get a song signed and hit 100,000 streams in total. I'm not expecting to, blow up this year. Maybe have some TikTok do well, but it's a long road and you need patience. And a lot of people will look from the outside and say, oh, look at, John Summit, look at this guy. They just blew up overnight. And people don't realize it takes like 5 to 10 years to become an overnight success. Like a lot of people don't know John Summit was making music for like, I think like up to 5 years before he really found success. I think he's releasing a track like every 2 weeks or like every month, he said, for like a year. And he was sending songs to labels like constantly and getting rejected. And you can go on the YouTube, there's like YouTube videos of him like how to make tech house like the pros. Has a lot of views now, but it didn't back then. And like you don't see the grind when people are, not in the spotlight, but you just have to realize it's a long game and just be patient. And as long as you're seeing those small wins, small goals, you'll maybe have some overnight success in the future, or it'll be a slow grind. But either way, it's feel like what you're doing enough. That shouldn't be the first priority. You should do it because you like it. And then
no doubt,
if you are really that passionate about it and care enough, something will happen eventually.
Yeah. Diabass. He's headlining a festival. What would be your like top A tier or S tier festival? Who do you be headlining?
Originally, like with my dubstep stuff, I would have said like Shambhala or like EDC or something. But now I want to go to like some Euro festivals. I forget what it's called. I think it might be Rampage. I think it's like a drum and bass and dubstep concert. I think it's in the Netherlands or in Belgium.
Oh, Rampage. I've heard of that one.
I think it's the drum and bass one.
I think it's both.
Yeah, it's like drum and bass and dubstep.
Yeah.
That would be a sick one. Or Tomorrowland, obviously, would be cool. But I want to, at least where I'm at right now, maybe my sound or my genres will change, but I'm definitely leaning towards drum and bass and, future rave main stage stuff. So would say somewhere in Europe, Tomorrowland, Rampage.
I'm manifesting it right now for you. I'm excited for my Diabass Euro show I'm going to go to.
Open up Tomorrowland at the small stage at 2 p.m. But hey,
Hey,
I'll be there.
who cares,
Still
man?
fucking
Who
counts.
cares? That's like the fact you're there. It's do you have any upcoming projects or anything like that listeners should keep an eye on for?
Yes, I mentioned before, my next track coming out will be a drum and bass track, kind of sub-focus style with a Vancouver artist singing. And then the one after that will be my, hopefully, revolutionary genre bending.
Yeah.
I'm coining it now, future drum and bass or future D&B. Drum and bass and future If Have a Baby. So those are the two tracks I'm working on right now in terms of production. And then live shows and sets. I've been playing, some clubs around Vancouver here and there earlier in the night. So hopefully I'll keep getting my foot in the door. No big shows planned yet, but that's kind of what I'm looking out for in the future.
Oh yeah. Do you have a release date or like a month that you think the future drum and bass or this new drum and bass track will be coming out?
So the drum and bass one's done. I just need to record the vocals. The instrumental's done. The vocals should be done in the next few weeks. And then I want to send it to labels to hopefully get that bucket list item checked off. So usually that takes, a month or two just because they can be slow to reply. So maybe end of Q1, beginning of Q2, release date for the drum and bass track. It's called Heartbreak, tentatively.
Hell yeah.
Little teaser.
Looking forward to it. It's unreal. Well, everyone, that was Diabass on the Audiation Station podcast.
Second time's a charm.
Cheers.